To A.G. Dostoyevskaya, Loskutnaya Hotel, Room 33, Moscow, May 28th to 29th, 1880, 2 a.m. My dear Anya, the only news I have is that Dolgorukov's telegram arrived today announcing that the unveiling of the monument is to take place on the 4th. This time it is official. Therefore, I can leave Moscow on the 8th or even the 7th, and you may be sure that I won't lose any time. But remain here I must, and I have decided to do so. The main thing is that I am needed here, not just by the friends of Russian literature, but by our whole party, and the whole idea for which we have been struggling for 30 years now. For the hostile party, Turgenev, Kovalevsky, and almost the entire university, is determined to play down the importance of Pushkin as the man who gave expression to the Russian national identity, by denying the very existence of that identity. To oppose them, our side has only Ivan Serg, Aksakov. Yurev and the rest carry no weight. But Ivan Aksakov is out of date, and Moscow has had its fill of him. But Moscow has never seen me or heard me speak, and I am now the main focus of interest. My voice will carry weight, and our side will prevail. I have struggled for this all my life, and so it would be quite unthinkable for me to flee now from the battlefield. And when Katkov himself, who is no Slavophile, says, "You must not leave, it is impossible for you to leave," then obviously I must not leave. At noon today, while I was still asleep, Yurev came to my room with that telegram. He sat around while I was getting dressed, and at that moment I was informed that 2 ladies had come to see me. I hadn't finished dressing, so I sent to find out who they were. The fellow returned with a note that a Mrs. Elena wanted to obtain my permission to publish a book containing collections from my writings suitable for children and to publish a book for young readers. What do you think of that? Why, we should have thought of that ourselves long ago and published a book like that for children. It would certainly sell and might bring us a profit of 2,000 rubles. And now this woman is asking me to make her a present of these 2,000 rubles. What impudence! Yurev at once went to tell her that I was not at all prepared to grant her the permission and that I could not receive her. He went because it was he himself who had thoughtlessly suggested to her that she come and see me. No sooner had he left than Varvara Mikhailovna arrived, and before she was even inside the room, Viskovatov appeared behind her. Seeing that I had visitors, Varya left in a great hurry. Yurev came back and told me that the second lady visitor had come on her own. She did not tell him her name, and said only that she had come to express her infinite esteem, amazement, and gratitude for what I had given her in my books, etc. Having said that, she departed, and I never saw her. I had some tea served to my guests, and then Grigorovich came in. We sat there for a couple of hours in my room until Yurev and Viskovatov left, and Grigorovich stayed on, apparently with no intention of leaving. He started telling me all kinds of stories accumulated during the past 30 years, reminiscing about the past and all that. Half of the things he told me were, of course, sheer fabrication, but some of it was actually quite interesting. Then, when it was almost 5 o'clock, he announced that he did not wish to part from me and started begging me to go and have dinner with him. So I went with him again to the Moscow Inn, where we had a very leisurely dinner during which he talked the whole time. Suddenly, Averkiev and his wife came in. Averkiev sat down with us, and Dona Anya declared that she would come by and see me. I really need her. It turned out that 2 of Pushkin's nephews, Pavlishev and Pushkin, and some other fellow were having dinner at a nearby table. Pavlishev also came over and said that he'd come by to see me. In short, it's just like it was in Petersburg. They won't leave me in peace. After dinner, Grigorovich started trying to convince me to drive with him through the park to get some fresh air, but I refused, parted with him, returned to my hotel on foot, and 10 minutes later drove off to Yelena Pavlovna's to see if there was any mail. But there was no letter for me, only the Ivanova girls were there. Mashinka is leaving tomorrow. I sat around until 11 o'clock, then returned to the hotel to have some tea and to write you a letter. That's my whole report. It's very bad that our letters take as long as 3 or 4 days to reach their destination. Since I informed you I was coming back and you were expecting me on the 28th, you won't be writing me again, of course, and now imagine the time it will take before you receive my yesterday's and today's letters about the change in my plans. I'm afraid you'll find it all bewildering and start worrying. But that cannot be helped. It's awful, though, that I may have nothing from you for perhaps another 2 days, because I miss you very badly. I feel very sad here despite all the guests and all the dinners. Ah, Anya, what a shame it is that we couldn't have arranged, of course it was plainly impossible, for you to come along with me. I've heard that even Maykov has changed his mind and decided to come. I still have a lot of running around to do here. I have to report to City Hall and register there as a delegate. Exactly when, I still don't know. in order to get a pass to the ceremonies. They are renting the windows of the houses around the square at 50 rubles a window. All around the square they are setting up wooden stands for the public, with seats also going at exorbitant prices. What worries me also is that it may be a rainy day and I might catch cold. I won't be speaking at the dinner on the opening day. I believe that my speech is scheduled for the second day at the meeting of the Friends. They are also thinking of replacing the theatrical performance by readings from Pushkin by prominent literary figures, Turgenev, me, Yurev. They have asked me to read the scene of the monk chronicler and the monologue of the miser in The Covetous Knight. Furthermore, Yurev, I, and Viskovatov will each read one poem of Pushkin's death. Yurev will read Guber's, Viskovatov Lermontov's, and I, Tchyotchev's. Time is running out and people prevent me from doing what I have to do. I haven't yet managed to go pick up the money at the Central Store or at the Morozov's. I haven't been to Chayev's and I must pay a visit to Varya. I would also like very much to meet Nikolai, the Bishop of Japan, and Alexei, the Vicar of Moscow. They are very interesting men. I don't sleep well and am constantly haunted by nightmares. I'm afraid I might catch cold on the opening day and cough during my reading. I'll be waiting now for a letter from you with great impatience. How are the children? My God, how anxious I am to see them. Are you feeling well? Are you in good spirits, or are you cross? It is painful for me to be away from all of you. Well, goodbye. I won't go to Yelena Pavlovna's tomorrow. She has promised to forward any letter that arrives. I hug you all very hard and I bless the children. All yours, F. Dostoyevsky. P.S. If anything should happen, wire me at the Loskutnaya Hotel and address the letters to the hotel too. Do you get my letters all right? It would be a disaster if some letter got lost. Zolotaryov hasn't arrived yet. That's the end of the letter, and now the footnotes. By our party, Dostoevsky means the Slavophiles, and the whole idea refers to the view that the Russian people were the bearers of true Christianity. Maxim Maximovich Kovalevsky, 1851 to 1916, was a sociologist and a historian of the law and one of the leading figures in the liberal movement. Dmitry Vasilyevich Grigorovich was one of the 4 representatives of the literary fund at the Pushkin festivities. Donna, Dostoevsky presumably means Donna, Anya, is a sarcastic reference to Averkiev's wife, a former actress whom Dostoevsky disliked. Lev Nikolaevich Pavlishev, 1834 to 1915, was the son of Pushkin's sister and the author of a book of reminiscences about his uncle. Anatoly Lvovich Pushkin was a son of Pushkin's brother, Lev Sergeyevich. The monk chronicler is Pimen in Pushkin's Boris Godunov. Dostoevsky did read this passage at the festivities, but not the scene from The Covetous Knight, or Tchyotchev's poem. Without his knowledge and somewhat to his annoyance, he was assigned to read 2 of Pushkin's poems, The Tale of the She-Bear and The Prophet. Eduard Ivanovich Guber, 1814 to 1847, in addition to his poem on Pushkin's death, had published a translation of Part 1 of Goethe's Faust. In 1847, he had written a critical review of Dostoevsky's early work. Mikhail Yurovich Lermontov, 1814 to 1841, was a poet and novelist. His Death of a Poet, 1837, brought him immediate fame. It accused the Petersburg Court Society of responsibility for Pushkin's death and led to Lermontov's arrest and imprisonment, though he was pardoned a year later. He was also the author of a classic Russian novel, A Hero of Our Time, 1840. Like Pushkin, he was killed in a duel. Morozov was one of several Moscow book dealers with whom Dostoevsky had business relations in connection with the publication of his works. Nikolai Alexandrovich Chayev was acting chairman of the Society of Friends of Russian Literature from 1878 to 1884. Nikolai, the Bishop of Japan, was Ivan Dmitrievich Kazatkin, 1836 to 1912. His letters from Japan were published over many years in the Moscow Gazette. Alexei, the Vicar of Moscow, was Alexander Fyodorovich Platonov, 1828 to 1890, professor of canon law at the Moscow Theological Academy, and author of many books and articles on theological subjects. Dostoevsky did visit the 2 men a few days later, and he wrote to Anna Grigorievna, quote, "They said that they felt greatly honored by my visit and were very happy to meet me. They have read my books. That shows they appreciate it when they find someone who is on God's side," end of quote.